All right, here we go.
There you go.
That was the first Patriot Uprising, and we're hoping to have another one.
Yeah, well, we need one every couple hundred years. You have to have a Patriot Uprising every couple hundred years.
Gotta water that tree of liberty, as Thomas Jefferson said.
Here's something we will get into this conversation here in just a minute. The Ohio Political News here. 94 companies, one building. Ohio Medicaid fraud exposed. Stay tuned for the details. I can't believe what's coming out of there. Luke Rosiak, investigative reporter, and he's uncovered a bombshell. It's gone national. You've heard about it. You're in New York. Yep. You've heard about it and everything. So, and all fingers are just pointing right to Governor DeWine. I mean, come on. And then...
or as we like to call him, Governor Deweyne. And for people who don't know, Luke Rosiak is a really talented independent journalist. He breaks a lot of great stories. If you're not following him, you should be. Luke Rosiak, Rosiak.
Yeah, he is good. I hadn't heard of him till now, but I've been following him. I do have a little bit of a clip and stuff like that I'm going to get to here in just a minute. But before we do that, because I got a feeling if we get into that, we're going to spend a lot of time on it, and I really do want to spend a lot of time. But there's a couple other stories I want to get to real quick here with you while I have you here. And one is the Virginia Supreme Court and their issuance of that 4-3 decision striking down the voter-approved constitutional amendment on congressional redistricting. The ruling nullified the results on April 21st, which passed narrowly, 3 percentage points, and kept Virginia's existing congressional map in place for the 2026 midterm elections and beyond. The biggest violation of this, and I was watching a podcast, I thought it was a Republican podcast, and it turned out to be this Democrat lawyer. And he was going berserk over this. And when you listen to the key violation, there's no way that you could have let this go unless you have a crooked court system. But the key violation was that the first legislative approval occurred October 31st after early voting had already begun, and 1.3 million people had already voted. So it sounds to me like what they were going to do was they were going to add this, right? This was going to be added then after 1.3 million people had already voted. Mm-hmm. They're adding this now to the ballots. You can't do that.
Right.
I mean, that is just absurd to think that you could get away with that. And
Democrats think the law doesn't apply to them. Forget about rules.
I know.
Apply to them. And everything a Democrat said, as we've covered many times, Joe, is either a lie or is based on a lie. And the Democrats have been howling in Virginia that their GOP in the court system, the Virginia Supreme Court, has stripped black people of their voice. Well, what we're talking about here, folks, Virginia, until the next census, has 11 congressional seats. And it's 6-5 based on the current districts.
Okay, yeah, that's
very generous to the Democrats because the Democrats only live in 3 places. They live in Virginia Beach, Norfolk area in the far southeast. They live around Richmond, and they live in Nova, Arlington, Fairfax County. And, Joe, that passed by 3%, but again, we're left wondering whether it really did because once again, the no vote was leading all night long until we had that classic Fairfax County drop at 11:37 and 53 seconds.
Wow.
But what they want to go is they want to go from a 6-5 map to a 10-1 map. They want 10 Democrat seats in Virginia. What they're actually doing, and here's the lie, they're not stripping black people of their votes. They're stripping Republicans of their votes, and not just white Republicans, black Republicans too.
Yeah, and the wording of that was so deceptive. This whole thing was just so phony, all right? First of all, you can't put an amendment on after 1.3 million people have already voted. You just can't do that. The Supreme Court,
which, by the way,
Virginia
argues
Supreme
for
Court
Election Day.
It.
Yeah, that point right there, the fact that 1.3 million had already voted by the time they tried to slide this in, just shows why we need to get rid of early voting.
Yeah, good point. And then you were just now saying that there was this large drop of late night ballots that just came in to push it over. I mean, come on.
Fairfax, Loudoun County, they do it every single election.
Okay.
And it's late. It's not like, oh, the polls closed at 8 and these got in at 8:35 or even at 9:30. No, it's late. Like, okay, we know how many we're behind by, and here's our votes.
There you go. They know how many.
And all of a sudden they win.
Yeah. So all that, but they didn't win. Thank God. We dodged another bullet. Trump is dodging lots of bullets, really and figuratively here. So this is just massively good news for us, for the Republican Party, because I was a little worried, bite my fingernails and all that about this, what they were going to do with the gerrymandering, as you say, and it was all these squiggly lines and everything, so that they would come out 10-1 with the Democrats. But now that's all not going to happen, thank God. But we are picking up some seats redistricting in other places, like Tennessee, I believe, right?
Tennessee was delicious. The black woman who was hosting the CNN roundtable had to quickly humana and cut to commercial when one of the white women on the panel pointed out that with the redistricting map, and I will grant, the existing map is a lot more geographical than the proposed map. The proposed map looks a little gerrymanderish. It does. I won't deny it. But that eliminates the one Democrat seat that's based primarily in Memphis, far western Tennessee. But the delicious irony is that it will now be represented most likely by a black Republican woman and not by an old white guy Democrat, Steve Cohen, who's been an absolute nightmare in the House. Steve Cohen is one of the most deceitful, deceptive, duplicitous Democrats on the Hill. And it looks like old Steve is going to be sent packing, and the good people of Memphis will actually be represented by a black woman. Oh, but the racism, Joe, the racism of it.
Now, that is for the November election.
That's for this November, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the woman, the black lady, who's actually a Republican, think of the irony of that. So the Democrats are saying that this is racist, and they're putting up a white guy, an old white guy, and the Republicans are putting up a black woman.
Who's far more qualified than Steve Cohen is, by the way.
It's more qualified. That's amazing. That's wonderful. That's wonderful stuff.
And with now, we also got the case out of Louisiana versus Calais, that was an 8-1 decision, and Ketanji Brown made one of the most despicable. Ketanji Jackson Brown gave one of the most despicable dissents I've ever read. It outright accused the majority of racism, including Elena Kagan, who, even though I disagree with a lot of her positions, she's eminently qualified, and the wise Latina, who is eminently unqualified, although not as bad as the DEI auto pen nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson, but or Ketanji Jackson.
She is she's a basket case, and how that
horrible
makes the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court looks so bad. When you got somebody like that. The dissent was
so bad and it was so outrageous that Samuel Alito absolutely earth-slammed her in reproving her for her dissent. You see, what they tried to do, these arguments were held last October, Joe, and it was decided around the conference table 7 months ago. This decision should have come out the latest 6 months ago, but no, they delayed it until now, hoping to delay it. And then they went back into court and said, no, it's too late. You got to have 32 days, which is going to get you past the primaries in Louisiana, by the way. And they're trying to delay so that the decision doesn't take effect until after the election. And then the court came back 9-0, saying, no, we're not going to delay it any further, which just shows you, because it went from 8-1 to 9-0, that Kagan and the wise Latina must have taken the DEI appointee aside and said, stop embarrassing us. You're going to vote for this because it's a non-starter. Don't waste your political capital on it. But she's just a disgrace. I think the likelihood of her being impeached and removed is high, because I don't think that her nomination was ever valid. I think it was done by auto pen.
Is that right? So she's actually a DEI type, auto pen type Ohio's a Supreme Court justice. Yeah. Unbelievable.
People will say, but she's got a degree from Princeton and a degree from, she's got the degrees, but did she get the education?
Listen,
it doesn't look like it based on what she says. And by the way, if you look at all of the words spoken in the first 10 oral arguments, I think that the smartest man on the court Justice Thomas, said 14 words, or maybe it was 44, or something like that. She spoke over, well, first of all, the top 5 most talkative were all the 5 women. And
well, now that's a racist statement. Wait a minute, that was a racist statement. Just kidding. I love it.
It's not. No, it's not sexist. If you look at the number of words spoken, the top. What is it? We've got 4 justices, right? We've got
right.
We've got
I'm just giving you a hard time. I'm giving you a hard time. I'm playing the liberal side of the coin.
I know, but
they'll find anything to say.
But even among the 4, right? It was in order. It was in order of competence. Amy Coney Barrett, and then Elena Kagan, and then the wise Latina, and then Ketanji Brown at over 11,000 words. And Clarence had said like 44.
Unreal. Unbelievable. Hey, I want to talk to you. Let's just talk about here for a minute, and then I'm going to get into the fraud here in Ohio, which is just off of the charts.
But let me just tie the bow on that before we go on to the fraud.
Go ahead.
The reason that they're able to redistrict in Tennessee, and the reason that they're able to redistrict in other states now, is because of the Louisiana decision. Okay, that Louisiana decision opened up redistricting nationwide. And so Gavin Newsom in California thinks he's going to be able to rig it to overcome Republican redistricting. It's going to be about plus 20 Republicans with the redistricting that's going to happen in the next couple months.
That is just so good. That is so good. I mean, that's better than we could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
And then if we can generate some excitement in the November election, we could even go further than that. Now, we had a problem.
People got to get out and vote. You Ohioans, you think you're a red state and everything's safe. These Muslims are uniting with the communists and the socialists, and their turnout is going to be massive this November. The Republican turnout in Ohio needs to be as big as if Donald Trump were on the ballot, or
well,
even
the problem
bigger.
is he's not on the ballot, and then it's like, I don't feel like going out to vote, But we had, 20% statewide voter turnout, which I guess is on par for most primaries.
Yeah, but that's why outlets like OPN are so important. Get people excited to vote. Got to get out the vote. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, you got to get out. But we need candidates to get excited about, too, the establishment rhino Republicans are all like, you just vote Republican. You just vote Republican. You shut up. You don't do anything. You don't do any activism. But when we need you to vote, we send you the postcard and you go and you vote for all the Republicans. Click, 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 click. That generates zero enthusiasm.
It does, but right now we're in an existential battle for the future of the Republic, and literally, you got to hold your nose and vote Republican. I hate doing it. You hate doing it, but it's got to be done.
I'm not saying don't vote Republican. You got to vote Republican, but I'm talking more like in the primary and stuff like that, and bring in some new juices and let people decide who they want to move on with. But generally. When you get to the establishment with the Republican Party, they don't even want to have a primary. They hate that there's competition in primaries. They just want to pick whoever it is going to move on to the November and vote for them and la-di-da-di-da-di. Hey, we got to talk some this fraud going on in Ohio because it's pretty bad. Now, Keith Faber, actually, I've got something here that I might be able to pull up if I can. I should have did this sooner, but... Well, go ahead and talk for 1 minute, and I'll do this.
Well, I sent you a graphic this morning, and this was chilling, right? California spends $50 billion in fraud, not $50 million budget for Medi-Cal. $50 million is wasted through fraud in the Medi-Cal program, which is California's one-off Medicare program. California has a unique program, unlike all the other states.
That's their Medicaid, but they call it Medi-Cal, right?
Medi-Cal, yeah. But so this is for poor people, right? That $50 billion that they lose through fraud, again, that's not the whole budget. That's the fraud portion of what they spend on Medi-Cal, is larger than the entire state budget of 29 states, Joe. The next highest state, Louisiana, has a state budget to fund the entire state of $48.3 billion. The fraud number, the taxpayer dollars that are wasted on fraud in the Medi-Cal program, is $50 billion. It's unconscionable.
No, I hear you. And
And that, Ohio's budget is what? $100 billion?
100 billion. Yeah, 100
How
billion.
much of that is through Medicaid fraud? Way too
A
much.
lot of it. A lot of it. We're going to find out about that here in a second. Well, I had something with Keith Faber. Where the heck is it? Yeah, I'll just see for 1 second if he's got it. He was making an announcement, and maybe it's not there. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, we have a $100 billion budget here in Ohio. $100 billion. 6 years ago, it was $75 billion. Now it's $100 billion. They've swiped another $25 billion in tax revenue. I don't know what the state is doing with it, but that's insane. And for the population of this state, we should probably be at about 50 billion.
Yeah.
That's where we should be at, not 100 billion.
Well, I will say this. I've noticed a tremendous change in the demographic composition of Franklin County in the last 5 years.
Yeah, a lot of Somalians.
A lot of everything that aren't people that, go to one of the music clubs, right? Drive past one of the music clubs. And the people that you see in line outside, quite frankly, Joe, are absolutely unemployable unless they're working at one of the dwindling number of coffee shops. And those people don't pay taxes.
All right, Auditor Keith Faber, I'm just going to read this. I can't find the actual video, but Auditor Keith Faber broke the news in committee that most of the home health care funding budgeted by the state of Ohio, a large percentage, is in a 4-mile radius around Morse Road. Nearly 40% of Medicaid's $1.6 billion home health care, that's just home health care, is spent in Franklin County, 40%. And almost all of it is a 4-mile radius, okay? And it's the biggest, that's where all the Somalians live, for crying out loud.
It's
and
also
that
all fraud.
4-mile radius.
Yeah, no home health care services are being delivered. And what's even more unconscionable, Joe? They're doing it through autism services as well.
So people that really need it are being denied this. That's the problem.
Yes.
All right, let's listen to this. This is Luke Rosiak.
My name is
here.
Luke Rosiak. I've been investigating fraud and abuse in the federal government for 20 years professionally. And what I'm about to show you is the worst waste and abuse of tax dollars I've ever seen.
Now, I got to tell you this. This is viewer discretion advised, by the way. The worst use of tax dollars, the biggest fraud he's ever seen from any state. Where do you think that's?
It's not in New York or California. It's smack in the middle of the country, in Ohio, under a program championed by the state's Republican governor and his hand-picked appointees.
Our award-winning governor, DeWine, So
it's time Ohio has a weenie roast.
Well, he's leaving in November, but
I know,
November's
but you
still a
need to-
long ways. He can do a lot of damage before November.
That's what I'm
We
saying.
obtained
You need to
millions
have
of
a
long
weenie
secret
roast
government payment
now and
records
then.
for Medicaid. What we found shocked us. An endless stream of cookie-cutter home health companies collecting millions from taxpayers. Ohio has asked for and received waivers from the federal government allowing it to expand Medicaid to do things it was never intended to do. Services that aren't medical at all, like doing chores, cooking, cleaning, even just providing companionship and conversation. It turns out that when there's a huge incentive to claim that you're infirm without actually having to move into a nursing home, a lot of people start claiming they're infirm. Over the last
Okay, so let's just recap that for a minute. So this is something new. I don't know how many other states do it, but Ohio does it, where Medicaid will pay you if you go and spend time with an elderly person on Medicaid. So the big shell game, the big scam that's going on in Ohio is now you have these offices, these companies that are set up, and they say, well, listen, you should be getting paid to go spend some time with your relatives. But you don't know how to do the paperwork. We will do the Medicaid paperwork for you. They will bill us, and then we will pay you. Okay? So that's how it works. But there's no oversight.
None.
There's zero oversight. So they are just billing and billing and billing, and money keeps flowing into their offices and organizations. And the state of Ohio is like dumbfounded. And I mean, I
They're
should say
literally
dumbfounded.
billing millions
They're
of
just
dollars
dumb.
a week in fraudulent claims. Not millions of dollars a week in claims, millions of dollars a week in fraudulent claims. Billings that do not result in any services being delivered.
Now let's see what else is here.
Estate Group LLC, registered by Israel Izzy Steinberg and Isaac Nassar. Altogether, Cordoba Real Estate Group owns 7 buildings in the area during the time of the Medicaid payments released by the federal government. These 7 buildings are filled with nearly 300 Medicaid firms. The front doors are open, but inside,
so here
the
he is
7
inside.
massive complexes are as abandoned as a post-apocalyptic horror scene.
Now we found Horizon Home Healthcare. This received $5 million. Meg Abizariri is the owner. $5 million over a couple of years, but it's just a closet. There's nobody here.
Smoke detectors chirp for new batteries. Office doors have signs suggesting the owner is out to lunch, even though the mail has been piling up. In all, Cordoba houses 288 businesses registered with Medicaid, which charged taxpayers more than $250 million between 2018 and 2024. They made Medicaid claims using billing codes that are essentially unverifiable because the service happens in the privacy of a patient's home. In the Cordoba office building at 1425 East Dublin Granville Road, we finally located a business suite with somebody in it. GC Home Healthcare LLC. 70%.
They finally located one office that somebody actually was in there after they've gone literally through hundreds.
Yeah.
And it's a Somalian guy.
To the employees are just being paid to spend time with their own family members after getting a note from the doctor vouching for the elder's need for personal services. The family member of an elderly person isn't set up to bill Medicaid, so a company stands in the middle.
I mean, we're just taking a small cut because, they pay us and then we pay them their hours.
See, they pay us and then we pay them. What he's saying is the government pays us and then we pay these employees or whoever it is, the citizens that are going to look at all these elderly people. But there's no way to confirm that this is actually happening. No way. Oh, by the way, yeah, if you're out there and you want to chat with us, that would be awesome. Home care, autism, truck companies, learning centers, meal programs, SNAP, the list grows. Opiate treatment
and the way to shut this down, at least in terms of the home health care and the autism services, is to go after the medical licenses of the doctors that are signing off on this.
How do you do that? Because maybe we can tell the auditor and we can tell the governor and we can tell the attorney general who get paid a lot of money to do this sort of thing how to do it. So, what's a good way to do that? And I'm serious. I am so frustrated on this because...
Well, you got a great Secretary of State out there, right?
Well, he's going to become the... what is he going to be now? Auditor?
Yeah, and he's, the state, I believe it's the Secretary of State that administers all the state licensing.
Okay.
So there's an Ohio Medical Board, or an Ohio Board of Medicine, whatever they call it out there, that's administered by, I believe, the Secretary of State. It might be under the AG's office, but typically licensing is done through the Secretary of State's office. So doctors are beholden to the state for their medical license. You just look at what doctors have signed off on all these fraudulent claims. I guarantee you're going to see a pattern. And just like we got
time out 1 second. Time out 1 second. You're going to see a pattern. What is Rosiak doing here? I mean, he's going into these buildings. Isn't that enough of a pattern right there to start investigating?
Well, to start investigating, yeah, but that just gets you to the provider. That gets you to the end crook. Okay, those companies are the crooks. But the doctors are getting paid to sign off on all of those individual claims. You can't have a claim without a doctor's note to Medicaid saying this person on Medicaid needs home health services, signed by Dr. Smith. Well, I guarantee you his name isn't Dr. Smith. I guarantee you there's a very small number of doctors doing this. Each doctor doing this is going to have an enormous number of claims to his name. Those medical licenses need to be pulled. Just like all the phony CDL licenses.
All right, but we've
gotten over 50,000 bogus CDL drivers off the roads. We need to get these doctors out of the
wait 1 second. I gotta push back on that. You got those CDL drivers off the road because Trump did it. Now we're not dealing with Trump. We're not dealing with Trump in Ohio. We're dealing more with we're dealing with I don't know what the hell we're dealing with. I had a lot of respect for these guys.
That's
but when
my
this
point.
massive amount of fraud, and you got to put quotations around it because it hasn't been proven yet. So I got to make sure I keep saying that. Allegedly fraud. Even though, but
we all know what time it is, and if they want to sue me, I'd love to get them into discovery. Sue me.
In another Cordoba building at 2700 East Dublin, there are 80 companies which collectively billed $73 million to Medicaid and received $23 million from the state of Ohio. 11 companies billed more than $1 million apiece. 2 claim Suite A alone, Continental Home Healthcare Incorporated, led by Dekwa Mohammed, which billed $15 million, and Dynamic Home Healthcare, owned by Saeed Ahmed, who billed $10 million. Bernard Kunoda's Buckeye Health Agency charged $15 million. Down the hall is Omega Home Healthcare Services, which charged taxpayers $11 million. Now, Omega was incorporated.
The hilarious thing about this Omega, it's run by a guy who actually ran for the State House here in Ohio, and I think he won.
By Muhammad A. Jama in 2011. The Medicaid money came so easily that when he ran for state senate as the Democratic nominee in 2024, his multi-million-dollar home health care business didn't even get a mention in his biography. In August, Omega underwent a routine audit by the Franklin County.
This I want you to know this is how hard.
Do you mean the Columbus Dispatch didn't do a thorough vetting of him? What? Cleveland Plain Dealer didn't say that this guy has a little shadiness in his past. I'm shocked.
Nobody did.
I'm shocked, Joe.
Nobody did. I'm shocked too. But anyhow, so there is an audit going on. He's going to talk about this particular audit of Omega Home Health Care Services. So listen to this.
He's independent auditor, which found it impossible that they were providing at least some of the services they claimed. The auditor noted, quote, Omega declined to submit an official response.
Okay, here's the point on this. There were 14 violations that the auditors found. 14. They probably could have found 14 million, but they found 14. All right. And so they submitted this audit and they wanted a response from Omega. And Omega said, basically hit the road. We're not going to respond to you. They said our response is that we're not responding. That was their response. So how do you think the auditor's department responded to that? How do you think that they, you know what they did? They came back and said, well, how about we just fine you $1,000 for every one of those violations? So what did that be, 14 grand?
Yeah.
This company is taking in millions fraudulently, allegedly.
Look,
millions and millions.
Auditor simply recommended that Omega refund $1,000 to cover the cases where Medicaid's own data conclusively proved the impossibility of home visits. As for the millions of dollars in other claims, the program would simply keep taking Omega's word for it. At 1415 East Dublin Granville Road, 22 companies billed taxpayers more than $20 million, even though the building appears virtually deserted. Pick a few doors at random, and you'll find the industry is a get-rich-quick scheme for people who oftentimes are the last ones you'd want put in charge of health. Let's pick the door that says, True Home Healthcare LLC, out for a quick break.
Out for a quick break. See you in 5 months, because they had some. Now, if you saw one of the doors.
Yeah, back in 15, never.
When you saw one of the doors, the mail was mail was stacking up so high that it was falling underneath the crevice of the door. Okay, you could see it. It was, so that Luke Rosiak picked up a letter, and it was from the Attorney General's office, Dave Yost, saying that they were going to investigate or do something.
Well, look,
it was dated.
I like Dave. I've had a couple.
It was dated
interactions.
5 months ago. 5 months ago was the stamp, the date.
Yeah.
So they haven't even opened it. It's sitting there on the floor. He just kind of pushes it back underneath the door.
Look, we certified Dave Yost and Frank LaRose. I like both men personally. I've had very pleasant dealings with them. They've got to do their jobs. It's time for Republicucks to stop acting like country club nice guys and start doing their job. And Joe, we need to expand this out, okay? Let's walk with me here. The Somali problem first became publicized through Nick Shirley's work in Minneapolis, right?
Right.
Well, now we've got, thanks to Luke Rosiak, a Somali problem in Columbus. But we also have a Muslim problem in Texas. Texas, there was a woman who wanted to have a Muslim-only event at a taxpayer-funded water park in Texas. And the governor shut it down, and the attorney general down there, Ken Paxton, is trying to shut it down. It turns out, what was the meme out of Minneapolis? The Excellence Leering Center, right?
Mm-hmm.
The sign over this child daycare said Leering Center instead of Learning Center.
Right.
You can't make this stuff up. If you look at the website of the company, of the woman who is leading the push for the Muslim-only day at the water park in Texas, she runs Excellence Leering Center, LLC. Okay? And so the problem is nationwide with the Somalis, but it's not just nationwide, it's global. There was a study done out of the Netherlands. This was done in 2024. Lifetime contribution per immigrant. So you immigrate to the Netherlands, and this is your financial impact on the Netherlands over the course of each individual immigrant's lifetime, right? So it's going to be an average per immigrant. North American immigrants contributed $573,000 net positive to the economy of the Netherlands over their lifetime. Scandinavia, $557,000. Oceania, $476,000. Japan, $525,000. And immigrants from the UK were $481,000, right? Somalian immigrants to the Netherlands, minus 1.1 million.
Yeah.
They
get on that welfare. They get on the SNAP. They get on all these Medicaid programs, and they never get off.
They never get off because, look, these are people who have absolutely no interest in acculturating, no interest in assimilating. They have no interest in becoming Americans or Dutch, for that matter, or any other country where they go to, because they're not there as immigrants. They're there as invaders. 50% of Somalis who've been here at least 10 years don't speak English.
Well, when they're talking to the Somalians, when they talk to any of them on camera and stuff like that, Rosiak's talking to any of them, and or even to the Nick Shirley ones, none of them barely can speak English. I don't know how long they've been in the country. I'm sure they've been here for a long time. They barely can speak English. And here's the other thing. Oh, if you say any of that, it's racism, racist statements. No, it's a fact. Okay? It's an absolute fact. And here's
not
another
only
fact.
can't they speak English in 70, toward your original point, 71% that are here more than 10 years are still on welfare after 10 years. Not only can't they speak English, Joe, they don't have the intelligence to learn, okay? Somalia is one of the most inbred. Muslim nations lead the world in inbreeding because of their cultural practice of cousin marriage, first cousin marriage. Somalians lead the world in inbreeding. That same Netherlands study looked at the impact, the financial impact of immigrants based on IQ. So Japanese immigrants averaged, it looks like 115-point average IQ. And their net positive was €500,000 to the positive in the Netherlands. North America, UK, Ireland, Denmark, Sweden, Finland were all at about 98, 99 averaging IQ, which is what you'd imagine. Average is supposed to be 100, right? They were all 500,000 to the positive. Somalia and the Horn of Africa, IQ was 70. Joe, they literally had to change the definition of what it means to be retarded so that these people, on average, would not be considered retarded. And again, they were negative 1.1 million.
Okay, but here's the point. All right, here's the thing
it's
now.
It's not just that they're on welfare, it's that these people are inbred morons that don't have the IQ to contribute to our nation. They need to be sent home.
All right. So what is the game plan with the Somalians? Because it seems like it's primarily that group of people from Africa that we're dealing with here now. So in Columbus, there's a 4-mile radius where there's just a high concentration of them, and that's where all these home health care phony offices exist, and all this money's coming in, and then it appears like they take that money and wire it back to Africa or something.
Yeah.
Why?
Dave Yost
Okay,
needs to
why? Well, you say they're dumb, but they're making a fortune. They're making a fortune doing this.
When did all of this start? When did all of this fraud start? Between 2008 and 2016. Who was president? Okay, Obama brought these people in and he put them in all 50 states, Joe. Idaho has a Muslim problem. Alaska has a Muslim problem. North Dakota has a Muslim problem. All 50 states have a Muslim problem because Obama imported them and they're outbreeding us. And it's becoming a greater and greater problem. It's been a ticking demographic time bomb now for 10 years. And it's only getting worse. The way to combat this, Dave Yost needs to criminally prosecute the doctors that are signing these notes. It's criminal Medicaid fraud. He needs to criminally prosecute them.
That ain't going to happen. Well, first
Frank
of all,
LaRose needs to pull their
just
medical
resigned.
licenses.
Yost just resigned. Now, I don't know if it has anything to do with this
Whoever the Attorney General is going to be needs to do this. It's the only way out. This isn't going to be done through the ballot box. It's not going to be done through the governor's office. It's not going to be done by
here's the reality of it, Timothy. Here's the reality for 1 second. All right? The reality is that it's going to be Governor DeWine who's going to pick his replacement. DeWine has pushed back on this, basically saying, there's nothing to see here. This is over-exaggerated. We're really not near any kind of fraud with Medicaid, blah, blah, blah. All right? You don't believe your lying eyes or whatever.
Okay, let me put it this way.
But let me put it this way. He's going to pick the replacement for Yost. But Yost never did it either.
I understand.
He had to have been aware of all this.
You cannot send a certified letter out and 5 months later not know that it wasn't signed for.
Or not do anything either.
That's why state of Ohio.
That's why they ignore all this stuff.
I understand.
They ignore it because they get a letter, they toss it in the waste basket, and then no follow-up with the Attorney General, no follow-up with the auditor, nothing.
Stay with me here. The state of Ohio has two options. Put on their big boy pants and do it themselves, or get swept away when the federal government comes in and does it for them. Because don't forget where those Medicaid dollars originate. They originate at the federal government. It's the federal government making block grants to the state that largely, not exclusively, because the state puts money in too, but that Medicaid money originates mostly as federal dollars. And because they're federal dollars, the federal government has a say in how the programs are administered. So if Ohio doesn't want to find itself in federal receivership, it better step up and enforce the law.
Okay, I hear you, and I agree with you 100%. I don't know if it's going to happen. I agree with you 100%. I thought it was happening. I thought all this was being scrupulated. Well, that's why I mentioned the CDLs,
because the federal government has already shown a willingness to address these fraud issues.
Well, who is it from the federal government that has put their foot down on all this? J.D. Vance.
Well, not only J.D. Vance, it was Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation. Remember, we had Pete Buttigieg off on maternity leave or whatever. Sean Duffy has gotten rid of 55,000 bogus CDL
He was having
drivers.
a baby. He having a baby? Buttigieg? Was he the one who was
a
pregnant?
Franken baby. It was a Franken baby, but he was wearing those fake nursing breasts.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I
don't even want to have a vision of Buttigieg.
That's what I did with my children, didn't you? Joe, didn't you love your children enough to nurse them yourself? These people.
All right, yeah, it's just so bizarre. But anyhow,
but Duffy stepped in to enforce the law on the CDLs. I guarantee you that Bobby Kennedy is going to step in with these, because don't forget, it's Dr. Oz that's in CMS, running CMS now, which is the Medicare and Medicaid programs.
I got you. All right, so if it wasn't thank God for these investigative reporters, because it wasn't for them, none of this comes to light. And it all started with Nick Shirley, and God bless him. He in one day uncovered $100 million worth of Medicaid fraud. And this guy in one day uncovered $100 million of Medicaid fraud or more. But yet we have a whole department, we have a whole fraud department in the state of Ohio, in government.
So does the DOJ.
They hadn't found anything. They might, out of billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse, collect a couple million or something and brag about it. So this whole thing is just, hey, the way you clean up government is you let the citizens find out what the hell is really going on, and then the you-know-what hits the fan.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what's happening right now. And I want justice. I don't care, Republican, Democrat, I want justice.
I don't care which criminals get carried away. I don't care what the letter after their name is. If they're a crook, I want them gone.
Absolutely. Absolutely, schmootly. Anything else? Anything else? I
think we've pretty much offended everybody that's out there to be defended tonight, Joe.
I think so. But I don't, you know what? We're offending those who are responsible for this.
Exactly.
And that's who we're offending. And that's fine by me. I don't care. I'm not going to play Mr. Puppet.
Of course not.
I'm not going to play Mr. Puppet and just say, okay, well, I'm going to be a good boy and just, Republicans can do no wrong. No, whoever's in charge, if the Democrats were in charge, I'd be raising holy heck like you wouldn't believe. I think we all would. But, it's a Republican. I ain't allowed to say anything, huh?
Well, as I say time and time again, I've never been stabbed in the back by a Democrat.
You haven't?
Never once. They always come right at you head on. Republicans, they'll be nice to your face, and then the second you turn your back, bam, you got a 14-inch chef's knife sticking right out of you.
All right, we're going to end it on this note. And do you remember what happened in Springfield, right? You remember what happened in Springfield? Well, we're going to end it on this. Hey, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming on tonight.
Hey, my pleasure.
We'll have you on again. We're going to have you on in a Sunday night. We do the shows and stuff. I have a new name for you, by the way. It's Mr. Knows Everything. So
I don't.
The next Sunday night show, we're going to have a little segment. Mr. Knows Everything. And we're just going to.
It's not that I know everything. It's just that I've forgotten more than most people have ever known.
All right, Timothy. Thanks a lot. God bless you. Take care. And remember.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the.
Turn them to hamburger helper. Somebody better help them, cause I'm going to jail for showing them fellas helter skelter.
Eating the dog.
Usually I'm content, but if you touch.